Good morning, good morning. We are in the tarot study of the High Priestess. It is the number 2 card. Yeah, it is actually kind of like the 3rd card of the tarot. And it's a major arcana card. And I say it's because the Fool is the 0, then you have the Magician is the 1, and the High Priestess is the 2. And then I like how it's the second 2. We see the Roman numerals, and then you have these is kind of like mirroring that as well, the pillars. Okay, so that's the original Rider-Waite version. Then you have the Wandering Star version. I'm going to try and get these. And then you have Tarot of the Abyss, Wildwood Tarot, Light Seers Tarot, Golden Art Nouveau Tarot, the Star Tarot, the Good Tarot, and this is the new one for today. This is the sorry. This is from the Mystical Moments Tarot. So she has the sailboat there, or the ship, I should say, peeking from behind the red curtain. There's the moon and the stars. And I always like when they do, like, in the original Rider-Waite and this one, and I'm sure other ones too, but when they have, like, it's like they do the ocean and the water kind of becomes part of her dress or skirt. I like that. Okay, so look at all the ones we have so far. That's fun. Okay, so today we're going to read from 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Fair warning. This one is this one's long. This is a long passage, so I don't know if we're gonna read the whole thing. We're just gonna go in and see what happens. So grab a cup of tea and let's dive in. And again, this tarot study is just we read from a different book about the card of that we're diving into each day that we get together, just to, I don't know, like get the different perspectives from the different masters of the craft, the ones that have come before us. These are like our mentors, and so we're learning from our mentors, and you can take what resonates, leave what doesn't. These are all opinions. So you don't have to, every single one of these is not right or die. This is learning and taking what resonates and leaving what doesn't. And most of the time you can get like a piece of a little golden nugget from each one of these, and then it comes together and making your own original dish with it, if that makes sense. So here we go. I'm like, it's so long. But we could do this. We could do it. Bill Butler and the Definitive Tarot has commented, I don't have that book, I don't think. Is that a book? I don't have that book. Has commented on the historical legendary sources for this female archetype. Throughout the Middle Ages, the story persisted that a woman was once elected pope, disguised for years as a man. This supposed Pope Joan made her way through the church hierarchy to the top position, only to die in childbirth during an Easter celebration. Oh, wouldn't that be a kicker? Pope Joan was most likely a legend. The Visconti Papis was real. In the late 13th century, an Italian group called the Guglielmites believed that their founder, Guglielmo of Bohemia, who died in 1281, would rise again in 1300 and begin a new age in which women would be popes. Jumping ahead, they elected a woman named Manfreda Visconti as the first papess. The church graphically graphically ended its heresy by burning Sister Manfreda in 1300, the year of the expected new age. Some 150 years later, the same Visconti family commissioned the first set of tarot cards as we know them. Ooh, I don't know if I remember that. So all of these books I've listened to on audio, and then because it's hard for me to read word like this, and then but for some reason reading out loud to you helps a bit, but I can't read a lot like that or starts hurting my head. But so I've listened to all of this on audio, but I don't retain all of this, so this is all feels very new to me too. So anyway, let's carry on. But that is very interesting. Don't you think that's interesting? Okay. Among these unnumbered and unnamed trumps appeared a picture of a woman, later Dex titled the Pappas. I don't know. Am I saying that right? The name persisted until the 18th century when Court de Gebelin, believing the tarot to originate in the Isis religion of ancient Egypt, changed the name to the High Priestess. Today, both names exist, as well as Veiled Isis, and the weight image of the card derives directly from the Isis priestess's symbolic clothing, particularly the crown representing the three phases of the moon. The Pope Joan legend and Manfreda Visconti are now simply historical curiosities. They illustrate a major social development in the Middle Ages, the reintroduction of the female and feminine principles into religion and cosmology, not cosmetology. The images and the concepts associated with the masculine role had dominated both the church and Jewish religion for centuries. As a result, ordinary people experienced the religions of the priests and rabbis as remote, harsh, and unapproachable, with the emphasis on sin, judgment, punishment. They wanted qualities of mercy and love, and they identified these with women. Like a mother shelters her child from the somewhat distant strictness of the father, a female deity supposedly would intrude for the pathetic sinners against unremitting judgment of the Father. It is interesting to realize that in many ways the church saw Christ as the Son in exactly the role of introducing love and compassion, yet the people demanded a female. Even the idea of church as Mother Church did not go far enough. Finally, the church capitulated by raising the Virgin Mary almost to the level of Christ himself. Many writers and scholars believe that the elevation of Mary, as well as the priest's costume of long skirts, originated in the church's desire to assimilate the persistent goddess religion from the days before Christianity. If this is true, it would indicate not so much a cultural conservatism as the power of the female archetype to maintain a hold and partially triumph against suppression. In Judaism, the official religion of the rabbis managed to resist any insurgent feminism. The people's need, however, took hold on another area. The long tradition of the Kabbalah and the Kabbalist took a term from the Talmud, Shekinah, which meant God's glory manifest in the physical world, and revised it to make it God's anima, or female side. The Kabbalist also revised the idea of Adam, making him originally hermaphroditic. I apologize. These separation of Eve from Adam, even the separation of Shekinah from God, became images of isolation and exile, sometimes connected to Adam and the sin of disobedience. So far, we have looked at the benign motherly qualities of female mythological figures. Historically, however, female deities have always shown a dark hidden side as well. To introduce the female at all is to introduce the whole archetype. Yeah. The tarot splits up the feminine archetype into two trumps and actually assigns the benign qualities to the second one, the Empress. Trump number 3, the Empress, which is, we'll dive into her next. The high priestess herself represents a deeper, more subtle aspect of the female, that of the dark, the mysterious, and the hidden. As such, she connects to the virgin side of the Virgin Mary, the pure daughter side of the Shekinah, and who was pictured simultaneously as mother, wife, and daughter. Shekinah? Shekinah. I bet it's Shekinah, not Shekinah, like Shekinah. Shekinah makes much more sense. We should realize that this assigning of qualities to women comes mostly from men and male ideas. The Kabbalist, the occultist, and the tarot designers all deplored the separation of men and women into categories and taught unification as a final goal. This is shown by the world dancer of the tarot. They were ahead of the established religion, which even debated whether women had souls at all. Nice. Nevertheless, men still made the categories. To men, women have always appeared mysterious, strange, and when safety in their mother role, loving and merciful. Women seem alien to men, more subtle in their thinking and non-rational. In our time, constant novels and films have pictured simple men manipulated by cunning women. We won't go there. The fact that the menstrual cycle lasts about as long as the lunar cycles links women to that remote silvery body, menstruation itself, a copious bleeding from the genitals, with no loss of life, has simply terrified men through the centuries. Even today, superstitious Jews believe that one drop of menstrual blood will kill a plant. The fearful... Why are you bleeding on the houseplants? I don't understand where... I'm curious about that. How that one started. Don't get near the broccoli. Sorry. Although I would think it would be very good for it, but that's just me. Okay. The fearful mystery of birth further connected women to the idea of darkness. The foetus, I wonder if that's a misspelling, because it's supposed to be fetus, but it's spelled foetus, like Foetus. Interesting. Did I just find a typo? Or is that a word that I just don't know? Grows and the soul enters it in the warm, moist darkness of the womb. Motherhood linked women to the earth, and there too, darkness dominates. Seeds lie in the ground through the dark, dead winter to emerge as food under the warm, reassuring rays of the sun, which in many cultures is considered as male. Just as the sun rays penetrate the earth, so the male organ penetrates the female to leave a seed in her mysterious womb. We can easily see how men came to view themselves as active and women as both passive and mysterious. People often link passive with negative or that is inferior and weak, but passivity contains its own power. It gives the mind a chance to work. People who only know action never get a chance to reflect on what that action has taught them. In a deeper sense, passivity allows the unconscious to emerge. Only through withdrawal from the outer involvement can allow the inner voice of vision and psychic forces to speak to us. It is precisely to avoid this inner voice that many people never rest from action and movement. Our society, based completely on outer achievement, fosters a terror of the unconscious. Yet without its wisdom, we can never fully know ourselves or the world. Give my eyeballs a break. Stretch, 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 stretch. Oh, oh, oh. The high priestess represents all these qualities: darkness, mystery, psychic forces, the power of the moon to stir the unconscious, passivity, and the wisdom gained from it. The wisdom cannot be expressed in rational terms. To try to do so would be immediately limit, narrow, and falsify it. Most people at some point have felt they understood something in such a deep way that they could never manage to explain it. Myths serve as metaphors for deep psychic feelings, yet the myths themselves, like the explanations given by theologians and anthropologists, are only symbols. The high priestess signifies inner wisdom at its deepest level. She sits before two pillars, representing both the temple of Isis and the ancient Hebrew temple in Jerusalem, the dwelling place of God on earth. In other words, the home of Shekinah. A veil. I don't know why it's so hard to say it like that. I keep wanting to say Shekinah or Shekinah. 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 A veil hangs between the two pillars, indicating that we are barred from entering the place of wisdom. The image of the veiled temple or sanctuary appears in many religions. The Shekinah was indeed said to dwell within the veiled ark of the temple. I am so curious if that's how you say it. I'm going to have to Google it, but I'm pretty sure that would be it. Now, most people assume we are somehow forbidden to pass the pillars of the high priestess. In reality, we simply do not know how to. To enter behind the veil would be to know consciously the irrational wisdom of the unconscious. That is the goal of the entire major arcana. Sorry, I wanted to reread that whenever they said that, because that seems like a big statement, right? In reality, we simply do not know how. Most people... Okay, let's back it up again. Most people assume we are somehow forbidden to pass the pillars of the high priestess. In reality, we simply do not know how to. To enter behind the veil would be to know consciously the irrational wisdom of the unconscious. Okay. I don't know about that, why it's saying, okay. That is the goal of the entire major arcana. Look carefully at Smith's picture. Oh, sorry, Nat. Here's Smith's picture. You can see what lies behind the veil by looking between the veil and the picture and the pillars. And what lies behind is water. No great temple or complex symbols, simply a pool of water, a line of hills, and the sky. The pool signifies the unconscious and the truth hidden there. The water is motionless, the secrets in the darkest depths hidden under a smooth surface. For most of us, at most times, the turbulent unconscious remains hidden under a placid layer of consciousness. We cannot enter the temple because we do not know how to go into ourselves. Therefore, we must travel through the trumps until we reach the star and the moon, where we finally stir up the waters and return to the wisdom, to the conscious light of the sun. The temple introduces the image of the two pillars and the theme of duality and opposites. The image occurs again and again through the trumps in such obvious places as the Hierophant's church pillars or the two towers of the moon, the pillars of the high priestess seen from the other side. I don't want to search the cards to make you guys wait, but I'm going to have to do that another time. So let's just look at that again. The image occurs again and again through the trumps in such obvious places as the Hierophant's church pillars or the two towers of the moon. The two towers of the moon, and it says in the parentheses, the pillars of the high priestess seen from the other side. I don't know if I ever... Like, I know, like, looking at the two different, we've been looking at the two pillars, but I don't know if I've, like, okay. I'm going to have to look at those again in a new light. But also in a more subtle ways, such as the two sphinx of the chariot, or the man and the woman of the lovers. Finally, judgment with the child rising between a man and a woman. And the world holding two wands resolves the duality of uniting the by uniting the inner mysteries with the outer awareness. Now, the next one I have highlighted, so let's see why I'm curious about why I highlighted it. The letters B and J stand for Boaz and Jachin, the names given to the two main pillars of the temple in Jerusalem. Okay, because that's why, because I always forget what the B and J stand for. No, middle school jokes. The names given to the main pillars of the Temple of Jerusalem. Obviously, the dark Boaz stands for passivity and mystery, while Jachin symbolizes action and consciousness. Notice, though, that the letters carry the reverse indications, a white B and a black J. Like the dots in the Tau symbol, the letters signify that duality is an illusion, and each extreme carries the other embedded inside it. Amen. In her lap, she holds a scroll marked Torah. This name refers to the Jewish law, the 5 books of Moses, which is usually spelled Torah, Torah. So you can see that again, this scroll there. Okay. This particular spelling allows the word to serve as an anagram for Torah, Taro, as the ultimate subject of all Kabbalistic meditations, like Christ's crucifixion. For Christian mystics, the Torah carries a great deal of esoteric significance. The Kabbalists believe that the Torah read on Saturday mornings in the synagogues was only a representation, a kind of shadow of the true Torah, the living word of God that existed before the universe and contains within it all true existence. The Torah held by the high priestess, rolled up and partially concealed in her cloak, therefore signifies a higher knowledge closed to us with lower understanding. We can describe it also as the psychic truths available to us only in the distorted form of myths and dreams. Earlier, we spoke of the Fool coming in a crucial moments of change to push us along. The gap between High Priestess and the Empress is one such moment. We too easily seduced by the dark coolness of the second trump. Even if we never really penetrate its secrets, the person beginning in spiritual discipline often prefers to stay at the visionary level rather than go through the slow, hard work needed to advance. Many people in more ordinary situations will find life too overwhelming, too vast and demanding for them to take part. We can best use the High Priestess' passivity as a balance to the outward-looking attitude of the magician, but many people find the passive side extremely attractive. It represents an answer to struggle, a quiet retreat instead of the harsh glare of self-exposure when we involve ourselves openly with other people. But the human mind does not work like that. It requires passion, and it needs to connect itself to the world. If we cannot penetrate the veil, I don't know why that word is bothering me right now. Do we need to have that? It's kind of like moist. Penetrate and moist. Can we just come up with different words? Can we come up like peek through something? I don't know. Let's carry on. The temple remains for us an empty place, devoid of meaning. The person who tries to live a completely passive life becomes depressed, more and more trapped in a cycle of apathy and fear. Virtually all moon goddess religions feature myths of the goddess's ferocious side. Ovid tells the story of Actaeon. It's Actaeon, a hunter and therefore a figure who properly belonged to the world of action. He happened one day to see a stream and decided to follow it to its source. Again, water as a symbol of the unconscious. Thus he became separated from his dogs and other hunters. When he had reached the source away from the active world, he saw a group of maidens. Among them, naked, stood the virgin goddess, Diana. Now, if Actaeon had returned immediately to the outer world, he would have found his life enriched. Instead, he allowed Diana's beauty to fascinate him. He stayed too long, and the goddess, discovering a man who had seen her nakedness, compare the high priestess's layer of clothing with the star maiden's nudity, turned Actaeon into a stag, where he ran away terrified. His own dogs tore him to pieces. Oh my God. Oh dear. Oh, I'm so sorry. Here the fool comes in. And remember the fool's dog leaping at his side, reminding us to dance lightly away from both these visions, the magician as well as the high priestess, until we are truly ready to assimilate them. The divinatory meanings of the high priestess deal first with a sense of mystery and life, both things we do not know, things we cannot know. It indicates a sense of darkness, sometimes as an area of fear in our lives, but also one of beauty. A period of passive withdrawal can enrich our lives by allowing things inside to awaken. As an emblem of secret knowledge, the trump indicates that feeling of intuitively understanding the answer to some great problems. If only we could express that answer consciously. More specifically, the card can refer to visions and to occult and psychic powers such as clairvoyance. In its most positive aspect, the high priestess signifies the potential in our lives, very strong possibilities we have not realized. Though we can sense them as possible, action must follow, or potential will never be realized. And I was reading that or something. I don't know if it was audiobook, and it was a book on Hecate or Hecate. It was saying that, like with manifesting things, you still have to take action. You can't just go like bury a little wish in the ground and be like, amen, that's it. You have to like take action. So there we go. All right. Despite its deep wisdom, the card can sometimes carry a negative meaning. Like most of the trumps, the high priestess value depends on the context of the other cards. Negatively, the trump indicates passiveness at the wrong time or for too long, leading to weakness, fear of life and other people. It shows a person with strong intuition who cannot translate feelings into action, or a person afraid to open up to other people. Whether the good or bad aspect of the card comes up in a particular reading depends on the surrounding cards and, of course, the reader's intuition. We partake of the high priestess every time we read the cards. Very often, both meanings will apply. Human beings have more than one side. We're almost done. The high priestess is an archetype, a single-minded picture of one aspect of existence. When we reverse it, we bring in the missing qualities. The card reverse signifies, I don't do reverse readings, signifies a turn towards passion, towards a deep involvement with life and other people in all ways, emotionally, sexually, and competitively. However, the pendulum can swing too far, and then the card reverse can symbolize a loss of that most precious knowledge, the sense of our inner selves. Amen. And so it is. Okay, so that is that. All right. Whew, I feel like I'm blind now from all that reading. So thank you so much for joining me and learning and our journey into the high priestess. 78 Degrees of Wisdom. I got this on Amazon. Tip, always Google and see if you can find these books used. Abe's Books. I get a lot of used books from there. I always look for the condition. I always look for very good. I feel like that, like anything lower than that, it's a crapshoot. Sometimes I do the good, but sometimes you get that and it's like a lot of writing and stuff in there. But the very good ones tend to be okay. Every now and then it's a little wonky, but majority of the time it's legit. And of course I always look for the free shipping and just comparing the prices too, because sometimes always even if you find one used on like Abe's Books or Thrift Books or whatever website you're looking at, or store, still always compare the new price, because the new price sometimes could be on sale and end up being cheaper with the shipping and all that than the used. So you have to compare the two. But anyway, that's how I get all my books. I always look for used first, and then compare the price. And then sometimes I even just wait for a sale, and I put it in my cart, and I just wait for it to go on sale, and just check your little cart every few days, and you never know. It might go 20% off or something. So just anyway, thought I would share that. And I hope you have an amazing day. Thanks.